I'm Chris Savage, and this is Savage Circuits TV. This episode of Savage Circuits TV was brought to you by Sony Creative Software. Visit them on the web at sonycreativesoftware.com. Hi, I'm Chris from Savage Circuits, and today we're going to show you how you can add a pen lifter to your Scribbler robot. This is nothing more than a servo and a piece of piano wire or a servo arm that lifts the pen on the Scribbler robot up and down. And the concepts on this robot can also be applied to the upcoming Scribbler 2 from Parallax, which is a propeller-based version of the Scribbler. Let's get started. The first thing you'll need is a Scribbler robot and a Parallax standard servo. We'll start by placing the servo on a firm work surface or workbench. Begin by removing the screw from the servo horn and remove the servo horn from the servo. Next, using a pair of diagonal cutters, we'll remove 3 of the 4 arms from the servo horn. For the next step, you'll need some double-sided sticky tape. Not the thin stuff, but the foam type like Scotch or 3M. Using the double-sided sticky tape, mount the servo to the top of the Scribbler robot so that when the arm is on the servo spline, it's just in front of the hole for the pen. If you need to, temporarily attach the servo horn back onto the servo so that you can make sure that the servo horn won't hit the pen or interfere with the natural movement of the pen in the hole. Now, using the servo horn, turn the servo spline clockwise until it reaches its stopping point. What you want to do is you want to make sure that the servo is all the way clockwise when you reattach the spline in its lowest position. If you don't, when the servo horn goes down, it could actually lift the servo and peel it right off the top of the Scribbler. Trust me, I know. By adjusting the horn so that it doesn't go any lower than the bottom of the well in front of the pen, we can ensure that this doesn't happen. Once you've got the down position mechanically calibrated, go ahead and move the servo horn back up into its normal position and put the screw back in. Now for the next part, you're either going to need a piece of piano wire or some other stiff type of wire or a servo linkage, something that you can form and which is small enough to fit into the servo horn. The wire you see here is from some whiskers for a robot. The first thing you need to do is bend one end of the wire into kind of a Z bend or S bend. That's typical of the end that goes into the servo horn. You don't necessarily want to bend the other end of the wire yet or cut it off because you don't really know exactly how much you're going to need. We'll cover that in just a moment. Next, you'll need your standard Sharpie fine point marker, the type that's used on the Scribbler. And what you'll want to do is remove the cap and place it on the other end of the marker. Now, in order to determine where you're going to cut and put the loop in the other end of the wire, you're going to first want to insert the S-bend part of the wire into the servo horn on your Scribbler. Next, we'll go ahead and insert the Sharpie into the Scribbler as it would normally go, but with the pen cap on top. With the Scribbler put up on top of a cup, as I have it in this situation, so that the pen doesn't touch the work surface, you can now find with the servo in the down position where the wire needs to stop. And what it should do, the bend should appear just below the shirt clip on the pen cap. So that's where you'll make your first bend and start your loop in the wire. In this video I've already done that, but you can see that the length of the wire matches with the pen in the down position, the servo in the down position. The loop will be just below the pen cap. I used needle nose pliers to make the bends in the wire I'm using. Now what I did was in the Scribbler GUI program, I wrote a program to make the Scribbler go around in a tight circle And then what I did was I went to the basic stamp code window and I inserted a routine which raised and lowered the servo at an interval. Now I had to find the exact servo pulse values to do that, but as you can see here in the video, once you have those values, it raises and lowers the pen just enough to pick it up off the paper and drop it back down. And when it's in its down position, the servo should be all the way down and the pen should be on its own weight. In other words, there should be no pressure against the wire on the servo. Now, the pulse values that you use will vary. Probably everyone will have different values slightly because there's variances in the servos and the tolerances. But it will be a very small amount of, it'll be a small distance that the servo moves to do this. You'll also want to ensure that you're not trying to run the servo in the down position past the mechanical stop, which we've calibrated as the lower position. You'll want to be just above that, otherwise you damage the servo. Here the scribbler is executing a spirograph type program where it's drawing a dashed line in a concentric circle type pattern. Now remember, when the Scribbler 2 becomes available, and Savage Circuits actually has one, we'll have an object and a demonstration showing how the pen can be raised and lowered in the Scribbler 2 as well. That's it for now. I'm Chris Savage, and we'll see you next time.